About 6 months ago, I interviewed Maxwell Colonna-Dashwood, a coffeeman who literally wrote the book on the science of coffee brewing water, in my quest for some kind of scientific proof of good coffee quality. The imprint Colonna-Dashwood left on me was his zeal for how much water can matter in that delightful morning cup. In this video, I'll summarize everything you could want to know about having good brewing water, whether third wave water is worth the hype, and a surprising reason you should buy your beans from a local roaster. While there are many dimensions water can vary along, including total dissolved solids, pH, hardness, and alkalinity, the Specialty Coffee Association charts that advise brewers on the best water to use only focus on the latter two, hardness and alkalinity. When I asked Colonna-Dashwood about whether any rigorous blinded trials had been done on this, he said,
"You know the graph like we did, we've got those extremes at the 4 quarters. 100%, I have never done a tasting where not everyone in the room can taste that."
So basically, this was like asking if any science had been done to see if people could tell the difference between winter and summer. To be published science,
it's about asking a specific, clear question that can get peer-reviewed, which is not necessarily the same as just trying to understand the topic as a whole, right?
The essence of hardness alkalinity is this. Hardness is a measure of dissolved calcium and magnesium minerals in your water. You want some to help you with the extraction from the beans, but too much leaves your coffee tasting too heavy, and on a practical level, leaves you dealing with limescale. Alkalinity is the water's buffer capacity, how stable the pH of the water is when acid is added to it. You might wonder why we're even thinking about adding acid to our coffee brewing water, but it turns out the dissolved carbon dioxide that comes out of your roasted beans upon brewing becomes carbonic acid, which can lower the pH of your coffee undesirably. So you want a bit of alkalinity to prevent your coffee from becoming too acidic and assaulting your taste buds, but too much and you just kind of get a generic, chalky coffee taste with no kick.
The best way to not taste any origin characteristics is be at the top right. So people say this in London, you buy this fancy coffee, it just all the coffee tastes the same, it just tastes like coffee.
Also, if your water is too alkaline, you might wind up getting too much gas out of your beans, which can slow the flow of water through your beans, causing them to over-extract. According to the SCA, most water in Europe and the US is too high both in hardness and alkalinity. Water can be measured and treated for an intended aim, but the SCA adds with poetic simplicity, without the aim, measure and treat become meaningless. Without the measure and treat, the search for aim becomes obscure. SCA's aim is nicely stated by Colonna-Dashwood.
You're trying to have a coffee that's balanced, shows the origin characteristic, isn't extreme in any variation, isn't really sour, really flat.
This aim brings me to why you should buy locally roasted beans.
All coffee around the world, whether the roaster realizes it or not, is roasted to a given water. They buy some green coffee, they roast it. They cup it and they go, maybe it's a little bit sour, a bit flat, a bit this, so on and so forth. Ultimately, that whole process is them tailoring that coffee to taste as good as it possibly can with the water that they cup with.
This probably leads you to the same question as me.
Aren't they filtering the water? Aren't they treating the water?
You're only softening what you started with, first of all. And how much you soften it is entirely up to the individual. RO water, so I've got 2 different filter systems for espresso and filter. And then I've got my London shop, my Bath shop, and my Bristol roastery. They've all got the same water systems in, all set to roughly the same amounts. The coffee tastes different in every location.
I see. So most of what's there is already there, and you're kind of tweaking with your filtering system, but most of it's already there, and that's why. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Now, I promised to answer you whether a pre-made product like third wave water is worth it. If you've been paying attention, you probably already know the answer. Colonna-Dashwood does have stories in which a roaster finds out what water will be used at a competition and then creates that water, and it ends up making a world of difference as they show off their beans. But for you, the home brewer, the tap water you've got at home is probably already about the closest you're going to get to what your local roaster was working with. The third wave water differentiates their product into 3 types by roast, and they cite the differing water of various US cities as motivation for why your coffee tastes great in one city but may cause it to taste awful in another. But the problem isn't that the water is necessarily bad, just that it varies from the local roaster's water profile. To that end, Asking for the best brewing water is a bit like asking for the best clothing in the world. It's going to depend on where you're going. Your best bet is to dress like the locals who already know the climate. So, thanks for watching, and remember to stay coffee snobby.